this is To The Point. It's Thursday, and we're rolling out some new stuff for you folks here because we wanted to keep us fresh and vibing. So on Thursdays, we'll be covering everything sports. During the football season, I'll be covering each week what the results from week 1 are and what we're looking forward to going into week 2. We'll dabble in some NBA basketball because, hey, it's going on right now. Major League Baseball, we only have a couple games left before the playoffs start. And anything else going on besides the NBA, Major League Baseball, NFL, our friends over at Major League Soccer, of course the NHL, WNBA, you name it, we're going to cover that in the sports world. Now, NFL kicked off. We started off with a Thursday game. It was the Chiefs versus the Texans. Exciting. We got to see the Chiefs get their Super Bowl rings. Amazing. Just great to see that team. Patrick Mahomes is probably one of the most talented QBs out there that we've seen in a long time. I know we all hype the great Tom Brady and the machine that is the Tampa Bay Bucks, but the Kansas City Chiefs really kind of shocked the world last year when they came back in the Super Bowl versus the San Francisco 49ers and really shut that down. And we'll get to the Niners and how they've recovered from their losing Super Bowl hangover. And Jimmy G, did you think he got through his struggles? In week 1, we were given that answer, and as we get to those highlights and to that game, we'll quickly find out that it hasn't changed much, which is a problem, right, when you think about it. But it was interesting. A lot of people talking in the NFL this week about kneeling and standing. We saw a little bit of it. We had a couple teams, 4 NFL teams on week 1 stayed in the locker room, including on Thursday's game on September 10th. You had the Houston Texans remain in the game or in their locker room during the national anthem and then run onto the field immediately at the end. Some players kneeling, some players standing. A lot of teams, players choosing to. Even Baker Mayfield, from the starting quarterback of the Cleveland Browns, was on the record of saying he was going to kneel, released a statement Saturday before his Sunday game stating that he would be standing just because that's something he wanted to do. So it doesn't matter where you sit in social justice. These players are speaking out. They are individuals. And I think that's a problem that a lot of people have, is they don't like the fact that people who make more money than them are allowed to have their viewpoints of what they do in the world. But we all have our viewpoints, and we have to have a voice. If we're all the same, we're pretty boring. This is why we love sports. Sports takes us away from all the politicking of the world. And that's the biggest issue that we have with all the politics that goes on in America today. It becomes a trifling issue that we have to overcome. So if you're not going to watch the games, I'm going to let you in on a secret. You by no means need to tell any of us that you're no longer watching the games and then secretly watching the games and posting that you're upset that somebody kneeled or somebody did something. If you're not watching the games, don't watch the games. If you are watching the games, awesome. You are joining the club. So just so you know, real cool stat before we jump in to week 1 and what was an amazing week 1. No matter what you say, just having football back on your TV kind of gives you the two realization of one thing. One, fall is right around the corner, and that means 2021 is coming. Thank God, because 2020 is just like, we're not done yet. We got fires here on the West Coast like crazy. We've got hurricanes heading everywhere. It's just madness. Plus you have COVID, kids back in school. That's a whole nother subject here in the Mitchell household. But, just amazing stuff. So when we come back from the break, we are going to be talking about what was week 1 results. So I'm excited to kick this off. I think you guys will be excited to be talking football. So all the sports, if you have questions when it comes to sports, please feel free to go ahead and tweet at me or the show or email us, and we will love to get more information and answer your questions and what athletes or pros you'd like us to cover on this show. We got a good show coming up for you. So when we come back from the break, we're going to have more talking about results of week 1. this is To The Point, so welcome back. It's our Thursday edition. We're going to cover what happened in week 1 of the NFL season and what's ahead, including tonight's Thursday night game, which is the Cincinnati Bengals versus the Cleveland Browns. Both teams got off to an 0-1 start. I don't want to tip the mustard there, but since we're going to talk about Thursday night's game, might as well cover at least one of the two teams. So we'll start with the Bengals. The Bengals faced the Chargers, who came in refreshed, looking to play some amazing football. No fans in the stadium, on the road in Cincinnati. It was an interesting game for them, being able to play and do that. So the Chargers are now 1-0. They went with the starting quarterback. There's this big controversy even here in Oregon, the UO quarterback. Everybody wanted to see the rookie start. They went with Tyrod Taylor, who came out and did really good. Went 16 of 30, 208. He had no touchdown passes, but no interceptions. Hey, that's a good day. Was a very slow-going game. It's still weird to watch games without fans. No persons were in attendance. The Bengals struggled and then kind of got going. They did have their rookie QB come on to play, and he did pretty good. He was last year's Heisman Trophy winner. You know what I'm talking about, Heisman Trophy winner. But they did play on the road in Cincinnati. It was a very it was an interesting game. You saw their new QB. I want to get you some numbers here for their new QB. Well, this isn't their new QB. That is called YouTube, and you guys don't want that. We're doing well on this first episode. But as we continue on here, going through this, there we go. I'll click on this because this will make more sense. Joe Burrow was on there. Joe Burrow went 23 of 36 with 193 yards. Passing through the air. He did throw one interception. Now, he did have a rushing, which is cool because they've had Andy Dalton for years on this team. And their leading running back, of course, Joe Mixon for the Bengals, banged out 69 yards. But Joe Burrow, giving them a new look here on the Bengals, a QB that can scramble. He had 8 carries for 46 yards and a touchdown. So pretty awesome for a rookie debut. Get those butterflies out, get those interceptions, and quarterbacks in the league are just that. So we saw that game, interesting game. Good to see the Chargers start on the right side of this. The next game up was the much anticipated Buccaneers versus Saints. The Bucs went on the road to New Orleans, and you had two great GOAT QBs going at it, with the great Tom Brady leaving New England, heading to the warmer weather, probably fits his older age, in Tampa. Brought his buddy Gronk with a heck of a lineup, although they did have some injuries. Mike Evans, their star stud wide receiver, suffered a hamstring injury during camp, still lingered on. He did keep his streak alive of touchdowns in a game. He did get a late touchdown catch to go with his one reception and a touchdown, so impressive stats. The Buccaneers ended up losing that game 34-23. It was a good game. Brady looked confident at times. It's a new system for him. Obviously, it's not Belichick, so it's a different game there. Going through the lineup, as many of you kind of went into this week, we've had some great games, and we're all getting used to a lot of the games that are out there. So we covered that game. You had speaking of the Patriots traveled to Miami and played the Dolphins. Actually, they didn't travel to Miami. They were in New England, duh. But they had an amazing game playing the Dolphins. Good game. You got to see Cam Newton left the Carolina Panthers and headed over there. This was a great game, much anticipated to have a mobile quarterback like Cam. Cam's had some injuries, but remember, Cam's no slouch. He's an amazing quarterback. And coming into this system, will it prevail? A lot of people instantly were on the Cam bandwagon because Cam came out, but will it last? Will they be a playoff team? And can Belichick get used to the Brady hangover to have Cam Newton a star in his own, definitely not a Brady, but a damn good star on his field? They had a great game. They beat the Dolphins 21-11. Great game. Also, our friends, we got so much moving, so we'll go over the teams that are movers and shakers that are doing some big stuff and moving around. We saw the Las Vegas Raiders take on the Carolina Panthers. You see how we're kind of moving around all the big names and big movers? Carolina took to the field, faced a Raider team that was just ready to fight, starting in their new digs. Hopefully they can get back to their winning ways. Shout out to all my Raider fans out there who are always telling me this is their year. nice to finally come off with a victory. They were victorious versus the Panthers with a win, 34-30. One of the best games I saw all weekend was the Bears-Lions game. It was an absolute shootout that came down. The Bears ended up winning the game 27-23. But one thing that you have to keep in mind is how great that game actually was. It came down to literally a final second drive. The ball went in and out of the hands of the Detroit wide receiver to the game. It could have been won at the buzzer. Instead, the Bears squeak that one out. Will be interesting to see how the Bears, how much they ride this victory. They are in a very tough conference, because that'll lead us to a game that I just was absolutely in love with all weekend. Was the Packers-Vikings game. Now remember, in the first round of this year's draft, the Packers drafted a QB, which everybody said this is going to cause a huge controversy amongst Aaron Rodgers. Not so. Aaron didn't get the memo, apparently, and showed up as the MVP QB that Aaron Rodgers absolutely is. Don't count that guy out. The Packers ended up beating the Vikings in a shootout with Kirk Cousins, 43-34. Amazing game. Aaron just was picking people apart, throwing 4 touchdown passes. So amazing game there. Loved watching that game. It was great to see Aaron Rodgers. All that drama was put aside and sent on its way, and Aaron prevailed. And again, when you look at that conference, that NFC is just tough, especially with Chicago being strong with that amazing defense. Green Bay, you could never sleep on Green Bay. And Minnesota always shows up to games, putting 34 points on the board with the amazing quarterback Kirk Cousins. You know, you just see so much there. So it was an interesting take. I think a lot of people out there were pleasantly surprised to see that turn into a shootout, and especially see Aaron Rodgers and how he responded to so much of the off-season drama talk that everybody put out there. And of course, there's the AFC East, and it can't go without saying the Buffalo Bills played just the poor New York Jets. And of course, it's kind of like watching a Browns game. You almost know the results, but you maybe hope for something good. And of course, the New York Jets lost to their upstate rival in New York, 27-17, starting the season off 0-1, which sounds like every Jets fan, because it's hard to get excited about that lineup. Just interesting. Lots of drama taking place on that team. You hope to see for the better when it comes to that team. But I think the Jets fan are in for a long, long season. I think the Bills are the team that people should be paying attention to, besides what's going on in the AFC East with our friends over at New England. You have to keep in mind that they haven't had anybody on this way in a long time. So this is exciting to see these results for this team. Going down the list, what was a stunner to me, and I think next week we're going to have a special co-host, but the stunner to me was the Washington, D.C. football team. I love that. Remember, they no longer are known as the Redskins. They did do a name change. They had an amazing game versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Their neighbors to the north drove down on a bus, hopped into the stadium, and ended up spotting a huge lead on top of the team from Washington, and Washington charged back and won the game 27-17, leading a lot of questions in the confidence in Carson Wentz and this Philadelphia Eagles team. Remember, the Eagles are just a few years removed from hoisting that Super Bowl trophy and seem to have hit this just losing streak that is just disgusting to see. A very talented team with a very good coach, a very good team. Big Carson Wentz fan here, and Carson just hasn't looked the same. And this DC team just got shocked and was like, hey, we're going to learn how to play football. And they have that feel-good story. You got to remember, Washington was able to bring back the great Alex Smith was able to return. So it's been good to have Alex Smith back. But again, that was a stunner. Now, moving on to quarterbacks resurrecting their careers. You had the Colts versus the Jaguars, and the Colts have a new quarterback this year. From San Diego, you got the great Philip Rivers, who brought over his football team that he has himself with his gigantic family the man has. It's good to see Philip Rivers out there doing his thing. Unfortunately, the same results that he saw when he was in San Diego the last few seasons. They ended up losing the game to the Jacksonville Jaguars, 27-20. So hopefully I didn't miss, how can I forget? Well, I brought up Thursday night's game. So before we head to commercial, as a reminder, the Browns played the Ravens, and the Ravens were the team that kind of was shocked to us. They ended up losing in the playoffs so early and wasn't a Super Bowl favorite, because we definitely saw them going to the Super Bowl. Instead, we didn't get that. We got the Chiefs. The Ravens played the Browns, and the Browns showed up like the Browns, and the Ravens steamrolled them 38-6. Baker Mayfield looked just rushed everywhere he was going, dominated up and down the field on defense and on offense. His passes were just everywhere. And of course, Lamar Jackson just knows how to run that offense in Baltimore. Baltimore is a team that you cannot sleep on. Last season, people had them as front runners. This year, they're in the playoff talk. A lot of people are predicting it's going to be the Chiefs and the Buccaneers. And I want your thoughts on that. When we come back from the break, let me know while you're watching. Send me a tweet at Eric L. Mitchell. Do you think the Ravens have a chance this season to make it to the championship game? Do you think they can make it to the Super Bowl? We're going to talk about that when we come back. We're going to get ready for Thursday night's game. We got the Bengals versus the Browns tonight. So when we come back from the break, we are going to cover that game and what to expect in week 2 and what's going on in the NBA, WNBA, MLS, and Major League Baseball. Talk to you guys when we come back from the break. Welcome back. So before we went to the break, we talked about week 1. So let's talk about tonight's game, the Thursday night game. NFL, sometimes I swear you can make the Thursday night games really fun. It's great that you started off week 1 with the Super Bowl champs versus everybody's favorite, the Texans. J.J. Watt's just very talented. Amazing QB there in Texas. So great to watch the Texans. But we start tonight with the Cincinnati Bengals traveling to Cleveland to play also the 0-1 Cleveland Browns. I know, 2-0-1 team. I swear, it's like these two teams just play each other, and rarely do they show up with a winning record versus each other. It'll be interesting. Baker Mayfield did get steamrolled, like I said before the break, was steamrolled by that Ravens defense. That Ravens offense just did it at its will, what it wanted to do versus the Browns. It will be interesting to see how the Browns step up. Now, my prediction is Baker has a game. He is a gamer. I think he is a pretty highly rated QB. I think he's still learning his way. He does play for the Browns, so let's all keep that in mind and not punish the poor guy. He does play for the Browns. So it will be an interesting game. Now, we do start off, and moving along, we do see the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Tennessee Titans. Now, the Titans won that game as the game ended. Finally, a made kick by their field goal kicker, who until that time had missed 4 kicks, was the laughingstock of Twitter. Of course, Jacksonville showed up. They are 1-0 also, so that'll be a good game. Jacksonville travels to Tennessee. The second game will be the Panthers, who are traveling and are looking for a win against the Tampa Bay Bucks, who we all know are looking for the win. Now, we all know the great Tom Brady is going to take the field with that team, and you know he's going to be pissed. The man does not like to lose, and neither does Gronk. And Mike Evans will be healthy. Plus, they will not be facing a potent offense nor a deadly defense like they faced in Week 1 versus the Saints. So predict Tom Brady going in there and just having his way like that man can do and will do whenever he wants. Now, we do come back and you have the 0-1 Broncos facing the 1-0 Steelers. The Steelers will host this Denver Bronco team that's still trying to figure out what's going on with losing Von Miller, still trying to decide if he's going to take himself out for the season. And that's a whole side story, folks. Do you think Von Miller's played his last down with Denver? If you do think that way, tweet at me, tweet at To The Point TV. Let me know your thoughts on Von Miller. Do you think he's done in Denver, and where do you think he'll end up? So we have that game going on. Also, on the morning games, or as we say here on the West Coast, or your 1 o'clock games for you folks on the East Coast, you have the Rams going on the road to play the Eagles. It'll be an interesting game as the Rams, are 1-0. They had an amazing game. Debuted that beautiful new stadium. Too bad it was empty. Debuted their stadium, and they're on the road versus the Eagles, who are 0-1, and they lost to the team out of Washington. Hopefully the Eagles can bounce back. That Ram team looks pretty darn good, so I see the Rams doing well. Now, one of the last games for the morning that we want to talk about is the 49ers travel to play the hapless New York Jets. Now, the Niners look like absolute garbage in week one. Started the game off great, but again, the flaw that you saw in the Super Bowl and you saw in the playoffs last year is Jimmy G is not consistent as a quarterback. Throwing off his back foot, missing open wide receivers. Just insert the problems here. I'm not so hyped up on not Baker Mayfield, on Jimmy G. So Jimmy has a lot to work on. We'll see how he bounces back. Thank goodness he has a chance to play against the hapless Jets. But hopefully the Jets don't come back angry. We saw the two-word expression from the great Gary Vaynerchuk, the biggest Jets fan we all know. He said F when it came to the Jets results. So you have that. And finally, turning into, we also have the Bills, who are 1-0 versus the Dolphins, who are 0-1. That'll be an interesting game. The Bills travel to Miami to play them. So it'll be interesting. I still think the Bills are the team that is really going to run the racket in the AFC East. They were really good last year. I really think that they're building a team to be reckoned with. They're going to make a playoff run this year. Yes, I know it's week one, but going into Miami, I definitely see them putting up a good fight there. You also have the Vikings at the Colts. Again, I think the Vikings are going to bounce back from their loss to the Packers, and they are just absolutely going to devastate this Colts defense. So it'll probably be a bloodbath. I apologize to you, Colt fans. It's just not going to be great. You have Phillip Rivers, but he's not mobile, and you're going to pay the price all season for a non-mobile QB. Moving along, there you go. We're talking about the Packers. The Packers play the Lions. I'm telling you, that is stacked in that NFC conference. I'm telling you, the NFC North is incredible. If you look at it, having Green Bay, Chicago, Minnesota, and Detroit, all teams, if they wanted to in their own right, could be playoff teams. That's why the NFC is so darn dangerous. Now, as we move on to that, you see the Lions. I'm going to go with the Packers on that one. Then you have the 10 a.m. game. Not a 10 a.m. game, but you have the Falcons versus the Cowboys. Another great game. Falcons travel. Falcons did not pull it out this week. They are 0-1 versus the Cowboys. They call themselves America's team, and they are also 1-0 or 0-1. They also lost their home opener. They're going to come in, and they have fans in the stands, so that will be interesting. It is good to have games where there are fans in the stands, so that will be an interesting game as the Falcons travel to Texas to play the Cowboys. You have the Giants, the 0-1 Giants playing the Bears, who are 1-0. Giant fan, I hate to break it to you, new coach, same team. You're going to run into a Bears team that defense is just going to squash your run, and hopefully you can get your air game going. But I see the Bears. They're a sleeper team. I think they're going to make it to the playoffs this season. They really have it down. And then the team that surprised everybody that actually started the season off 0-1, playing another 1-0 team, and 1-0 Washington team, the Washington football team, takes on the Arizona Cardinals. They're flying out to Arizona, so it'll be interesting to see how that game goes. Moving along, you have the Chiefs at 1-0 and the Chargers at 1-0 taking each other on. The Chiefs travel to, there'll be no fans. They had fans on Thursday night. They will not have fans in California when they travel to play the Chargers. And we have the Ravens playing the Texans. That'll be just a shoot. I just think that's going to be a great game. Two good offenses playing each other. Defense, it'll see. Can J.J. Watt get that defense to step up and play a very good Ravens team? And the 5 o'clock game, which everybody's looking forward to, two very mobile QBs. You have Russ Wilson. Those Seahawks, boy, did they not disappoint this weekend. Russ Wilson just came out, really starting to put that MVP talk behind him. He trained hard during the offseason, and it showed. Some amazing passes, and they are taking on the Cam Newton-led Patriots, who came out and proved a lot of critics wrong that Cam is a guy that can work in Belichick's system. So is it Belichick or is it his QBs? Which one do you want to go with? And wrapping that up, so before we come back from the break, before we go to the great break, our Monday night game is the Saints versus the Raiders. The Oakland Raiders that are no longer the Oakland Raiders. They're the Las Vegas Raiders. So we get so used to saying Oakland, Los Angeles, Oakland. Now Las Vegas Raiders. And the Saints travel to the Black Stadium. It's like the Death Star out there. So they'll be traveling to face that. So that's what we have for week 2. Let me know your picks for week 2. Who do you got? Who do you see? And when we come back from the break, we're going to talk about the other sports, what's going on in the NBA. And as we're wrapping up Major League Baseball, going to talk a little bit about that, what's going on with Major League Soccer. The WNBA is heading into the playoffs. So all this and more coming up next after the break. We're excited. Hopefully you're enjoying our sports talk every Thursday. This is what we're going to talk about. So sit down, get ready for some sports talk. Going to have guests on to talk about all the sports that you can get into your system. We're going to talk about it, always leading off with the NFL, because it's NFL time. When the NFL season goes away, then we'll probably go away from it. But we'll have all that and more coming back from the break. So we talked about week 2 in the NFL. So let's hop into some other news that's going on. As you know, tonight is game 2 of the Eastern Conference Finals facing the Miami Heat versus the Boston Celtics. That Miami Heat team is one just to not sleep on. You look at Jimmy Butler and that team just playing with a chip on their shoulder, absolutely going through. They are the team that I predict is going to go all the way. And on the other side, we have the Lakers and whoever the Lakers want to play. It just feels like this was destined to be the Lakers' years. LeBron and Anthony Davis and that cast is just on a mission. So hopefully we get to that. We'll see. I'm predicting it's going to be the Heat versus the Lakers, and that's just going to be just perfect for TV ratings and everybody. And as you all know, the NBA Finals start September 30th. So just another couple of weeks and we'll be there. So we'll have more about the NBA next week when we come on. Keep in mind, we also have the WNBA playoffs, which are going on. You can catch those on ESPN. It's exciting to watch that. Amazing teams. Those ladies are just kicking butt, and it's amazing to see them out there. Now, what also took place this week was pretty amazing. At the beginning of the week, we learned that the hapless New York Mets were finally, they've been up for sale for a while, but Stephen Cohen, a hedge fund billionaire from Long Island, reached agreement to buy the Mets. He will own 95% of the team, with Wilpon and Katz families retaining the other 5%, which is always wacky that this family wanted to sell the team but not give up everything about the team. Only in baseball. It just makes sense. The sale value of the Mets is at $2.4 billion. That's right, billion with a B, making it the most ever paid for a Major League Baseball franchise, topping the $2.1 billion paid for the Dodgers and surrounding real estate in 2012. Now, the deal still requires approval from 23 of the other 29 Major League Baseball owners, who are likely to vote on that at their regularly scheduled meetings in November, when the season will be over. But why does this matter, folks? Well, it's very simple. Cohen has a net worth of $14.5 billion, which would make him the second richest owner of an American sports behind Steve Ballmer, who's worth $69 billion. Can you just sit there? We're just talking about how many billions you have in the bank. Most people are like, well, how the hell am I? That's a lot of money. It would also make him wealthier than the next 3 richest Major League Baseball owners combined. You have Ted Lerner, who owns the Nationals. He's worth $4.8 billion. Charles Johnson, the Giants, the world champion, 3-time world champion, San Francisco Giants, at $4.3 billion. And Marion Ilitch, the Tigers owner, which is $4 billion. I got all these numbers from Forbes, so they seem to be on the up and up. I don't see that Forbes would be like, hey, they're wrong. This is what they go around doing. So it'll be, but here's the thing. Here's the backdrop on this whole story. Cohen previously reached an agreement to buy the Mets late last year, but it fell apart in January over who would control the team during the 5-year interim part after the sale. So, yeah. It'll be interesting. There's a lot going on. We're not out of the woods yet. Now, the biking boom, as a result of the pandemic, we've seen the biking boom. Folks are buying bikes and records because we can't drive anywhere, especially in the big cities. So people who don't own cars, they're biking everywhere going. So you're seeing a biking boom around everywhere. Get these numbers. These are amazing when we talk. So we talk about all things sports on Thursdays here. So if you look at the numbers, In April, bike sales grew 75% year over year, and in June, over 63% growth, which is crazy year over year. Those numbers are even greater in categories like inexpensive leisure bikes, which are up 203%, and mountain bikes, which I don't know how anybody could call a mountain bike inexpensive. Those things are awesome, and they're really expensive. Those are up over 150% in those. So those represent the style used by most of the people driving the boom. As a result of the sales spike, the demand is far outpacing supply. It's crazy that a lot of the world's biggest bike makers can't help you buy a bike right now. So you can't even get bikes. It's kind of like getting a Peloton. People are having to wait for a Peloton, and they're just angry about it. So interesting that you have that news going on with bikes. I just want to kind of throw that out there because, that's what we're doing. Now, here's another topic when it comes to bike. Sports media companies and sports betting, as everybody has FanDuel, DraftKings, and states throughout the union that are betting on sports. Before we get started on this, I'd love your thoughts on this. Go ahead and shoot a tweet at us at ToThePointTV and let us know what your thoughts are on sports betting. Is this something you like doing? Do you think it's good? It does give back to the states and schools. So what's that? So sports media companies are leaning further into sports betting as more states legalize the practice and the NFL and college football seasons kick into gear. So it's pretty crazy. So if you may not heard in the last few weeks, ESPN has entered into separate agreements with Caesars Entertainment and DraftKings, both which include exclusive link integration, so like affiliate partnerships across ESPN's digital platforms. ESPN's huge, people do it. Now, ESPN already publishes odds and has heavy betting analysis, so why not earn money if someone clicks out from one of those pages and places a bet? Pretty smart thinking if you think about it when it comes to those folks. Now, a lot of states have been really working on legalizing to make sports betting legal, so you're seeing ESPN jump into that. So, for Caesars and DraftKings, now those users will be arriving on their doorstep, ready to be converted into customers. And there is the added benefit of brand awareness, as the millions of ESPN users routinely see their names and logos. It's pretty awesome, right? This is what everybody wants to do. Now, the state of play. I'm going through these notes live, so bear with me. Now, sports betting programming was once considered taboo for TV networks, and now it's table stakes for survival. And that's what we're seeing, right? The pandemic has caused most things that used to be tabled as now are everywhere. DraftKings, sports betting, it's everywhere because it's the people who are doing it. So let's talk about this. So let's take Action Network, for example. The 3-year-old sports betting publisher earns a large chunk of its revenue by linking out to sports books. And there's more to it than simply getting users to click on links. Though in order for us to get compensated, the customers we drive to the sports book must deposit money with them. And that is from the Action Network CEO, Patrick King. And, it's not dissimilar from Wirecutter or any of those businesses. They use content and unique offers to send potential customers to Sportsbook and get paid if it converts. We've seen all this. If you're catching, on a side note, if you're catching Social Dilemma, this is what these do. They gain your attention. You're already in your sports app. You hear the dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun. You check your alerts. You're in these apps. This is genius by ESPN to get into that. So, between the lines, instead of getting paid to send their audience to existing sports books, now some media companies have created their own branded books. So these are a couple of them that we've been able to find. Now, you have Fox Bet, which is a partnership between Fox Sports, the media side, and the Stars Group, which is the betting operator. That launched a year ago in September. And of course, everybody's favorite, and if you're a sports fan like me, you're very familiar with Barstool Sports. So Barstool has their sports book as a result of the Penn National Gaming acquiring a 36% stake in Barstool Sports near the end of 2019. Now that launches this week. I believe it's live as of today. So that'll make it really interesting. Everybody loves Barstool, amazing shows. El Presidente is one of your favorites. Go check out Barstool if you haven't, but Barstool betting, it seems like that's gonna be a great bet and you're gonna get a lot of info out of there. Now, Football, as everyone may or may not know, football season is peak time for sports betting, and volume is supposed to be higher than usual with sports like basketball still in action because of this pandemic, right? Never before, people have always been talking about the ratings and how the ratings look. How do the ratings look? The ratings are bad for the NFL, but are they? Because the NFL for the first time is finding itself competing with the NBA on Thursdays, on Sundays. Now that ends as the NBA Finals start on September 30th and end in early October. But you still have that competition. You still have Major League Baseball, which they're used to competing with, but you're not used to seeing who they're competing with the NBA still there and the WNBA. People do watch the WNBA. Don't hate. Don't be that person. Major League Soccer's in play, but we don't really know how much they affect. But for the first time ever, NBA does take a lot of viewers there. Now, here's a number that you could get behind, which is crazy when I saw this number. 668 million was wagered on sports in New Jersey just last month. And that is the highest ever monthly total in any state, including Nevada. Get out with that. That's nuts. That's bananas. And that was driven because, again, just like we were talking about, a full slate of NBA, NHL, and Major League Baseball games. Add in the NFL, college football to the mix, and September could be even higher. So it is crazy. So DraftKings, I love this quote. I have this quote here for you. I want to share for you before we go to the break. DraftKings CEO Jason Robbins, I want to make sure I get it right. Jason Robbins went on record and said, football season for us is like holiday season for retail companies. It's the time of year when everything seems to spike, both in terms of betting and fantasy sports. So very true. How many of you are out there, have your fantasy teams, and how did you do in week one? Would love to hear. Message to the point and let us know how your week one fantasy went. Would love to hear compare odds. I can tell you I started off 0-1 and just got my teeth kicked in. Just was not, I don't want to even talk about it. It's so sour still. So it's just awesome. And as we go into the break, remember this. Sports betting has created a revenue stream for media outlets to tap into, and that's what makes it amazing. So we've got sports, so we're turning this around. The pandemic took sports away from us, but gave us back, and now we have all of it. So if you're enjoying sports betting, would be curious to see if you do it and if you enjoy it. I'm a big fan of FanDuel and DraftKings. I'm going to be trying out these other ones, especially Barstool, because I just am a huge fan of Barstool. So when we get back from the break, we're going to close out the show. We're going to talk about what's up next in the sports world and where we go from here with social justice and sports.
Let's get to the point with Eric Mitchell. Let's get to the point with Eric Mitchell. We gon' talk about sports and the politics. You gon' hear what you've been needing, and then you're dismissed.
So this has been an interesting show talking about week one, week two. Got some great games Thursday, full of football, and the Eastern Conference NBA Finals underway. Sports is well off. Now, one of the topics that has come up in sports has been social justice, and we obviously all remember when there was the stand down in late August from the NBA and all sports leagues when it came to the shooting in Wisconsin. Now, it's a touchy subject, and it's divided our country even further. People all have their own viewpoints on it, and everyone has to be right. We all have those friends that are on social media posting that they'll never watch pro sports again. They hate the NFL, they hate Nike, and they're quick to send messages. Trust me, people message me all the time. I'm sure there's somebody out here right now that wants to send me a message and tell me how much they don't agree with what I'm saying. And that's fine. We live in America. You don't have to agree with me. But one thing is we need sports in our world. And there's nothing wrong. Let's be clear. These athletes are human beings. And whether or not you agree with them and whether or not you think they just fell from the magic tree and money just showed up in their bank account and they have no God-given skills, you have skills for your job that you're paid what you're supposed to be paid for the job you do. Now, less than 3% of people in the world make it into the NBA. So it's rare air as it already is. They're wicked talented, and no, unfortunately, They're not this group of people that's just been portrayed as just shut up and dribble. Most of these folks do more outside of sports than the people who criticize them on certain networks. And that's not what this is about, because network TV has become this shoo-shoo ground where we decide to crap on pro sports and make everything these guys do like they're the crumb bums. Like they don't do anything and they don't deserve to have a voice. It's like, just shut up and play. That doesn't make any sense to me. Are they not Americans first? Did they not have to come up? Did they not have to deal with stuff? I've never been harassed by the police. But do I know that somebody else has? Do I have friends that have? Absolutely. Should they not run their voice about it? Should they not be vocal? Or should they just sit there and make people happy by doing it? That's not what the point of why we watch sports. I was raised on love of sports. Now, what I do during the national anthem is what I do during the national anthem. I stand. That's my stance for it, because that's what I believe. I don't need to kneel, and plus it's really hard to, would you kneel on the stadium? Hell no, you get all that nasty stuff. People spill beer. Some people pee. I don't want to do that. There's no room to kneel. People are like, I'm going to kneel in the stands. No, I stand. Sometimes I put my hand over my heart. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I put my hands on my side. That is my God-given right as a United States citizen to do. I love sports. My love of sports is huge. It's been part of my life ever since I was this tall. If you ever come into our studio or my office, you will see sports memorabilia everywhere. You can see my interviews where Yankee memorabilia is a big part of my life. I love my Yankees. I love my Trailblazers. Love my 49ers. That's just how we go around here. But I love sports, fantasy sports, any kind of sport. I'll watch it. I will watch people play freaking cornhole on ESPN because it's sports. And how many people enjoyed watching Last Dance about Michael Jordan and those amazing Chicago Bull teams? We all did. Now, you saying you hate sports because you make it political. Folks, we don't need to divide our country any further, and we need to understand that everyone has a voice, and we can't control people's voices. When we control people's voices, we become nothing better than a socialist, horrible government that we don't want to do, and I don't want to make this political. But it seems to be everybody wants to make sports political and drag it in. Forcing people to play, not letting them play, I'm never going to watch. We saw these protests when it came out with Colin Kaepernick, right? When Colin Kaepernick was given a shoe contract, everybody said, we are going to protest Nike. And Nike said, we don't care. And Nike lost some stock and lost some money on day one of this, but bounced back and had one of their best 2019s ever. Now, yes, has Nike lost money this season? Everybody has. It's COVID. So to go, oh, Nike sales are down. Everybody's sales are down. Target sales are down. The only people whose sales aren't down are people like Amazon, who are able to continue doing it. Costco, grocery stores, they're up because, hey, some of you needed to hoard toilet paper. So don't go off of, oh, it's ratings. We've never been so obsessed by ratings till now. And here's some stats from week 1. Now, you're right. Viewership on Sunday Night Football was down. You're absolutely correct. Not going to lie, it was. But here's some cute things that you should probably understand and go with. So let's play the Sunday night game. Now, ratings were down for the Sunday Night Football game. And it might be because Chris Collinsworth sucks and he's not the best sports announcer. But you turn in because, hey, here's a guy. So, yeah, the ratings were down. But, funny enough, the pre-show had over 20 million viewers. Now, that's pretty crazy if you think about that, right? 20 million viewers watched the first show of the night. So you've got that. So I mean, it's just sorry, I'm looking for the numbers here to kind of give them to you guys. But as you look through these numbers, you look at the viewership was the Fox OT, the Fox Sports overtime show that comes on right after the end of their afternoon games as we head into the evening games. Here we call them the 5 o'clock game. They had record 14.5 million people tuned in to watch that. That was the end, for most people, caught the end of that 49ers Cardinals game, which was just heartbreaking for us Niner fans. Make Cardinal fan really happy. People tuning in that. And then you have Football in America, which is the NBC show that preempts Sunday Night Football. And that show had record ratings. Now, people dipped off during that show, I think partly because people could be burned out. There's a lot going on. The West Coast is on fire. There are hurricanes coming. There's a lot going on, and Sunday is overwhelming, knowing that you had not one, but 2 Monday Night Football games to start this week off. It could be a lot, and the ratings are up. But keep this in mind. While you're quick to go bash that those numbers are low, keep this thought in mind. NFL owns Sunday. All of their programming owned Sunday. They beat Sunday hands down every Sunday like they do. Now, viewership's down, and there's a lot of reasons why. So just enjoy football. Now, it's been a great show. Hopefully you all enjoyed this format. Next week, we're going to bring on a couple guest hosts, and we're going to have athletes on. We're going to talk about what's going on in the ins and outs of the pro sports and cover the results of week 2 and what's going on to week 3. We've got a great week ahead. Going to be talking about, hopefully we'll be getting near the end of the NBA Western Conference and Eastern Conference finals, so that'll be fun. So if you know somebody that'd like to be a guest or a topic on our show, feel free to email us at hello@tothepointtv. Now that's hello@tothepointtv. Now you can follow us on social. You've heard me. If you want to give me feedback while you're watching the show, hit us up on the Twitter @tothepointtv. You can hit us up on Instagram to see who our guests are coming on this week. As always, we're on Biz TV and C-Suite TV, so you can catch us on both networks, as also as catch us on our Facebook page, which is To The Point TV with me, Eric Mitchell, and our YouTube page, which you can catch all of our videos and segment cut up for you to enjoy, because that's what you want to do. You don't want to miss a show. So on behalf of our entire team here, our executive producers, the wonderful Jordan Gelber, Marina Mera, our associate producer and creator of the show, Madison Mitchell, and music brought to us by the amazing veteran trio, they're a trio, there's 3 of them, so trio of our friends over at Space Force. Go check them out. They're on wherever you can downstream music, and you can include getting to the point, downloading it on Spotify, Apple Music, or wherever you listen to music. So, on behalf of everyone here at To The Point, I'm Eric Mitchell. Be safe, be strong, be smart, and God bless America.